right, so I think this is day 13.
Something like that.
Pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I looked last night.
Nearing the end.
Day 12. Nearing the end.
Nearing the end. 2 more days. 2 more of these.
Yeah.
And then we're home.
2 more. So, today was our first, full day in Sorrento. And, well, needless to say, it was an interesting day.
It was interesting.
Overall, it was a pretty fun day.
Yeah.
However,
but was it what we were expecting it to be?
No.
No.
So what did we expect today to be?
So back home when we were booking everything, we wanted one thing that I've wanted to see forever has been the Blue Grotto in Capri.
Which is what?
Blue Grotto. So Capri is an island off of Italy, off of Sorrento, and it's very rocky, very small. And on this island are a bunch of different caves and little inlets called grottos. And a grotto is where kind of the light comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And it just makes the water really pretty. Well, there's one in Capri that's very famous. It's called the Blue Grotto.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it's called the Blue Grotto because when the light comes in midday, it just has this brilliant
blue shimmer everywhere.
So I knew that I wanted to see that. I also knew that Capri is it's a small island, but big enough not to be walkable,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very rocky. So I know it can be logistically hard. When I was doing my research, it can be logistically difficult to get around this island, and specifically to get to the Blue Grotto. So, we decided that it would be worth it, since it was something I wanted to see very badly, to book a tour. Because a lot of the other things that we've done, a lot of the tours,
Mm-hmm.
We've booked them for the tour, but mainly we've booked them for, the ease of
getting to
logistics.
the places.
Logistical ease of getting from point A to point B. Like the Vespa tour, we wanted to see the Tuscan countryside, but we didn't really want to try to figure out how to get there ourselves.
How to rent a Vespa on our own.
And so that was nice because the bus picked us up, brought us to the place. We didn't have to worry about getting anywhere. We just had to follow people. And so the reason we booked this one was the same reason. We booked this tour because it was going to get us to the Blue Grotto, and there was some extra things included. So here's what the tour that we booked was supposed to be. So we booked a premium yacht tour, or premium boat tour, or whatever, from Sorrento to Capri. And what was included in this boat tour says we'll pick you up from the dock. You're going to get an aperitif when you arrive on the boat. We are going to explore different sites of Capri. We're going to explore, there was 2 or 3 different caves that we were supposed to see. The Blue Grotto, the Green Grotto, a lighthouse, some ruins. And then we were going to go get dropped off at Capri and have 4 hours of free time. We were also, before that, supposed to get a sandwich, a lunch, and a drink. Unlimited drinks. There were supposed to be unlimited drinks on board.
Yeah.
Which we don't drink alcohol, but still, unlimited soda. Hey, I'll take it. And so then we were supposed to get 4 hours on the island. And then after that, we were supposed to stop for a swim in the Green Grotto. So with the Green Grotto, you can actually swim in.
And not just a swim.
And we were supposed to get snorkeling equipment to snorkel. I was very excited about that. I've never been snorkeling, and I don't know, snorkeling in a grotto sounds really, really, really cool.
Yep.
Really cool. We bought a GoPro for it even.
Yeah.
So, with that being said,
Here's what actually
happened.
So
you want to do this part?
I'll do this part.
Go.
So we got to the dock, and things started fine.
Mm-hmm.
Got to the dock, got to the boat, there were 12 of us total on the boat, so it was a decent size, and plenty of room. It was a good sized boat, or vessel, if you will. But so we started off, and there was no aperitif. It was basically not that we care, but the theme of this story is integrity.
Yeah.
And the lack thereof. And so there was no aperitif. It very much felt like, let's get you on board and let's go.
Yep.
And we're going to go and we're going to stop at a couple places and we're going to talk at you for a couple seconds and then we're just going to go again. And you're going to basically have a boat ride.
Yeah, it was basically a boat ride. We did stop at some ruins. And when I say stop, I mean we didn't stop there for any prolonged amount of time.
No.
We literally boated up to it. He
Backed
talked
away.
for about 30 seconds while we were boating up to it, and then we backed away and went on.
Yeah, so a lot of the other like tours that we've booked, like they're very knowledgeable tour guides that will tell you history about the area. They're not necessarily always fluent in English, or there's still a language barrier, but they're very knowledgeable. They're very well versed. They've done this a lot of times. And the kid that we had as a tour guide clearly was not that. He was a boat hand, and nothing against the kid.
Nothing against him.
This is more on the second theme of this story is we had nothing against our direct representatives of the tour, but much more complaint with the actual company itself.
Yeah.
And so he would tell us maybe 2 or 3 sentences about the thing that we were looking at, and then we moved on.
Yeah.
And so that was a little bit frustrating. And so a little bit through this, we stop at not a grotto, just a little
like a little alcove,
maybe an alcove, maybe what we would call like a little inlet.
Yeah.
A cove or something.
And he's like, time to go swimming. Jump in.
So they dropped the anchor and we went swimming for I don't know, maybe 5 minutes.
It was literally like 5 minutes.
Tops.
Like I got in the water, we're sitting there, and like I had a not great feeling after we got on the boat, and so Corey's like, should I use the goat? I'm like, I think this is our only swim stop. Like I think this is gonna be it.
Yep.
And so we got off the boat and we're sitting there swimming. And I look over and I see another boat, and they've got snorkel equipment. Like, this is a different boat, right? Not our tour. Not even probably the same company.
Right.
They've got snorkel equipment, and they're swimming towards this little, like, inlet area. I'm like, ooh, that looks cool. And right as I'm about to, like, ask the guy if we can go swim over there.
Like, no, get
he's
back in
like,
the boat.
you guys have 5 more minutes. And I'm like, what? Like, we just got in the water, dude. Like, we literally, like, just got in the water. You just handed me a pool noodle, like, 2 seconds ago.
Yeah.
And now you're like, 5 minutes. So we were rushed
through that,
back onto the boat.
And so we kind of started, she had a bad feeling. I kind of started to get a bad feeling.
About the grotto.
And so when we got back on the tour, luckily, our captain of the ship actually was, I don't know where he is from originally,
but he
was Spanish descent of some sort. So I actually got to have a more in-depth conversation than a lot of the conversations I've been having, which was a little bit of a reprieve. But I asked him, I was like, so we go to the Blue Grotto too, right? And through a series of, conversations, he basically told me, no, we're not going to the Blue Grotto. We're gonna dock just around the corner here in like 2 minutes, and you're gonna have 4 hours of free time. If you want to go see the Blue Grotto, you can do that, but I don't recommend it to anybody because the line's always like 2 hours long and it takes forever.
Mind you, this tour specifically says we will see the Blue Grotto.
Your captain's gonna like navigate that for you.
Yeah, it says you the fee to enter the blue, even lists the fee, so you bring it with you, right? Which we had, we'd even set it aside in euros, and it does say entrance is optional. So which I like understand, like everyone else might stay on the boat, and then people who want to go in, and whatever. But it never says anything like they never. It was never not. Like, after Corey's conversation, it was like it was very clear.
They had no intention.
They had no intention of taking us there. Like, none at all.
Yeah.
So Corey and I were like, all right, pivot. We have 4 hours.
Yeah.
So we're going to figure this out.
We're going to figure out how to get there.
So they dock us at Marina Piccola in Capri.
Which is on the other side of the island.
Which is on the other side of the island from the Blue Grotto. So I'm like, okay. So we just taxied up there. We're like, why not? We want to see it. So we taxi up there. And we walk down, so there's 2 ways to get there, to the Blue Grotto. You can get there from a boat, and if you take a boat, you have to go up to the grotto, and then you have to get off your boat into a little skipper boat, like a little tiny, like, think Little Mermaid, Kiss the Girl, little rowboat, okay? Tiny little skipper boat. You pay the skipper and then you go under this little arch, and the arch is probably like
on a low tide, it's probably got 4 or 5 feet of clearance,
maybe less. Like
Maybe
you have
less,
to
like-
lay back in the boat,
Yeah.
and go under. Okay, so that's one way. So you have to get from your big boat into the skipper boat, go in, go out, get back on your boat. There's also a little staircase that
The most
goes
unassuming little staircase.
so unassuming that goes down the side of this mountain, and you can stand there and you can wait to get onto a skipper boat and do the same thing. Okay. So, and the reason I had booked this tour was because doing all my I've never been to this place before. What? I can't talk with my hands?
No, well, it's like right in front of my, like, I can't see anything.
This better?
Thank you.
Anyways, doing all my research, it was hard to like figure out for sure how exactly you got to like the staircase and everything. And if we would have been doing it on our own, like without a taxi or anything, I don't know.
I don't know if we would have found it.
It would have been a little tricky to figure out. So that was one of the reasons we booked the tour
Right.
to take us there. Because it was like, I don't
It's
want to have
not
to
an
figure
easy
this
thing to
out.
find.
It's kind of out of the way. It's why it's called a hidden gem. They're hidden for a reason.
Yep.
And so we get down there and we go down the staircase and there's no one there. There's no boats. There's
No.
nothing. And I'm like, this is it. I pulled up pictures. I'm like, this is it. I think it's closed. And so we look it up online. Like, we finally, again, you also can't really find a website for this. It took some searching
it was
just
like
to find
3 or 4 links deep into a Google search.
a website that actually had whether or not it was open that day.
Yep.
And they're like, no, it's closed for
Due to high wind
tides.
and tides.
Which was a bummer. But obviously our skippers didn't even, like, there is a site that you can go to, and I guess they check it at 9 a.m. every day.
Yeah. And
that's
our
when
boat
they
departed
make,
at 9:30.
that's when they make their decision. So our tour company didn't even check to see if it was open, because he told us, like, you can go,
Yep.
but good luck, basically.
Yep.
And so we hung out there for a little bit. We ate lunch, and then we walked our way back to our dock.
Well, we bussed back to Capri.
Bus back to Capri.
And then
Walked our way back to our dock, and then got back on the boat. Once we got back on the boat, they took us to...
the green.
Oh, I forgot one part. So as we docked in Capri, he had asked him if we were going to the Blue Grotto, and then we made that decision. About 2 minutes before we docked, he's like, does anyone want a drink? That was the first time we were offered, the first and only time we were offered a drink on the boat. And Corey and I said, yeah, we'll take a Coke. Both of us will take a Coke. 2 Cokes. 2 Coca-Colas.
I said do it. Do it.
And the guy comes back with one.
No, he comes back with water.
He comes back with water.
1 bottle of water.
And then we're like, no, we said Coca-Cola.
And then we got one can of Coke.
And then we got 1 can of Coke to share. So we got 1 drink to share between the 2 of us.
Right before we got off to go eat lunch.
And then, as we were getting off the boat, he's like, here's your sandwich. Hands us our sandwiches, and then scurries us, like, shuffles us off the boat.
Yep.
So we didn't even eat on the boat. We ate as we walked up to find a taxi. In fact, as I hailed my taxi, I was eating my sandwich. And he's like, bon appetito. And I was like, yeah, I'm hungry, dude.
Yeah.
I'm hungry and a little frustrated.
Yeah.
How much does it cost to go to the Grotto?
Yeah.
It's basically the conversation I had with the taxi driver.
Yeah.
He's like, man, this girl's on a mission. Like,
On a mission.
he was...
Yeah.
It was pretty funny. But
He was a great taxi driver.
he was a
though.
great taxi driver. He was fast. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
he was good. The roads are terrifying there.
Yeah, they are. So we get back after our 4-hour excursion, being disappointed that the Blue Grotto is closed. But understand, like, whatever. It happens. You can't control the weather. Can't control the tides.
And here's the part where I'll chime in a little bit. So,
maybe at the end.
sure, yeah. we could do it at the end.
So we get back on the boat. We boat over to the Green Grotto. And we look at it for about 30 seconds, just like we did everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then we keep going. So we didn't stop there. We didn't swim there. We definitely didn't snorkel there. We didn't snorkel at all today.
Yep.
And then we boat all the way around the island. We drive past the Blue Grotto.
Yep.
And as we're driving past, we're like, there's the famous Blue Grotto. You can see the little... there's nothing to see from the outside, by the way. Nothing to see. It's literally a hole in a wall. Literally a hole in the wall. Mm-hmm. Okay? Nothing to see. And And they're like, there it is. And then they boat past. They had no intention of stopping.
No.
None. So they kept going, and we made it back. When we got back, they offered us a limoncello shot.
Yeah.
Which we didn't.
Yeah.
But it was part of the tour, so I just wanted to chime in that they did do that.
Yeah.
And then we docked and got off. So now I'll let you say your thing.
Yeah. So here's kind of where I'll say our piece about all of this is that when I asked the captain, it was very clear that they had not checked whether the Blue Grotto was open, whether it was closed. They did not intend to take us to the Blue Grotto
at all.
And so, yes, the Blue Grotto was closed. We would have had an entirely different feeling about the situation and an entirely different representation and review of this place. Had the conversation gone like, oh, hey, there's going to be a lot of wind today. The tides are high. It's closed for the day. We can't take you to the Blue Grotto. We're sorry. And to give you a little bit of context, in Rome, when we did our Colosseum tour, we had something similar happen.
We had booked it with the underground, the dungeons, basically, of the Colosseum included in our tour. And when we got to the tour, like, we had walked in the door and just said our names, and, like, we're here for that. And they're like, oh, by the way, we got a call this morning that there is a political event going on at the Colosseum during the time of your guys' tour, and we won't be able to take you to the underground. We have tried to change the time. We have tried to
change the date.
We have tried to work around this to make it possible. They said that
this is the only thing, the only option.
And this is the only option. Like, we can't get you into the underground today. We'll give you a refund.
Yep.
Or you can go and do the parts of the tour that are still available. And there was another group of girls there that were really upset.
Yeah.
And I think they were considering canceling, but they didn't. And Corey and I were like, that's fine. Like, you guys can't control politics.
Right, yeah.
You had no idea or way of knowing this. Like, we'll still do the tour. If it had been like that, where we showed up this morning, because we showed up there at about 9 o'clock.
Yep.
And they had been like, hey, by the way, we just, the skippers just checked, and Blue Grotto's closed for the day. It's too high tides.
Yep.
But we can still do everything else in the tour.
Or
we can give you a refund.
Like, if that had been the conversation, we'd have been having
been the conversation, would have been very different. The thing that
really irks us just that there was no... We feel like we got swindled.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It felt very much the same. Like, the feeling that I got was very much the same as all the scammers that have been in all of the other Italian cities. And it's just like they are out to squeeze you for as much money as they can and give you as little as possible.
Yeah.
And that was the vibe that I got.
And they didn't even do everything they... Because, like, okay, here's my frustration. The two things I was looking forward to for this tour specifically were the Blue Grotto and snorkeling.
We did neither of them.
We did neither of those. Because the reason we booked it, because it was an Airbnb experience, and the reason we booked it was because it was going to be a unique experience that no one else would get. Very few people would get, right? Like the Vespa tour that we booked.
That was awesome.
That's super unique. Super cool. What made that
it's just
experience unique was like what made it worth paying that was it was a unique experience.
Yeah.
Today felt like we just paid for a really expensive
boat ride.
Water taxi.
Yep.
Around the island of Capri.
Yep.
Which was very disappointing.
So.
So with that, like, and to put it into perspective a little bit, tomorrow we booked a boat tour as well for Amalfi and Positano. Now this one, much cheaper. But there's no uniqueness about the boat tour tomorrow. There's no snorkeling or anything like that. It's just a boat tour on a big boat with lots of people.
To get us to a couple of little lake towns.
To get us to a couple of towns and to learn a little bit more while we go.
Yeah.
For reference, we paid $100 less. €100 less for our tour tomorrow than the one we paid for today.
And we're going to get essentially the same experience.
Minus the swim. The 5-minute swim.
Yeah.
Which there are beaches on Amalfi, so we'll probably go swimming while we're there. Mm-hmm. But that's
So that was today.
That was today. And it was a fun day.
And
was fun.
we forgot one. We did forget one thing. So in our free time, this was not something that the tour did,
Oh,
but we
yeah.
did find the highlight of the day, and the one thing that redeemed, to a small degree, the day was that we found a chairlift, basically a ski lift but single seat, that went up to
Peak of
the
Capri.
peak of Capri, which is called Mount Salerno,
Mm-hmm.
and like way up. So like she said, Capri is very rocky, mountainous area,
Yeah.
and so like the island goes very vertical very quickly,
Yes.
and it goes pretty high. So we got on this little chairlift, and you can walk around at the top. Kind of reminded me of Pikes Peak a little bit, a lot less altitude, obviously. But we were up in the clouds and like got some amazing views. I've got some footage on the GoPro that we'll probably post when we get back. So I've got some footage from like trains and things. So some of that we'll post when we get home, but I'll post that. But so that was the highlight of the day.
Yeah, the view up there was spectacular.
Amazing.
And like when we got on the boat and our boat guide were like, "What did you guys do?" We're like, "We went to Capri." He's like, "You went to Capri?" Like it was like they knew that everything was super far away from where we docked.
Yeah, they basically expected us to get into Capri and go to a bar and drink.
Which is what everyone else on our boat did. And they seemed perfectly fine to do that. And
it's like, why would you pay the amount of money that we paid to do that?
I don't understand.
Doesn't
I'm
make
like,
sense.
You can get a drink anywhere.
Yeah,
just
even on a beach.
Yeah.
2 of them were from Carolina. Like, they have beaches and bars.
Like, we paid for a unique experience. And it was not.
Yeah,
So
we came home and we buried our sorrows in delicious pizza and delicious sorbet and cannoli.
Cannoli. Oh my gosh, yeah. I had a cannoli stuffed with Nutella.
It was amazing.
That helped a lot.
And pistachio cream.
Feel a lot better.
Oh, it was good.
So
good.
I will have to come back to Capri someday to see the Blue Grotto. It's still, unfortunately, still on my bucket list.
Yep.
It'll have to remain there until the next time, which, it's okay that it was closed. I can't control the weather.
Yeah.
Like, there's been a lot of things on this trip, because, like, would have liked to see the underground of the Coliseum.
Yeah.
But it was, you can't control things like that. They happen. In a way, I'm glad for the tour company that it was closed.
We would have given them a much worse review.
The review would have been much worse if we had to get all the way up there by ourselves after all of that.
Yeah.
Do it, and then still make our way, like... would have been a lot more mad.
Yeah.
To say, like, I just did it by myself.
Yeah.
In the amount of time you gave us. And,
yeah.
I paid you to get me there. And I had to do it myself.
But anyway. Hopefully tomorrow.
Yeah. Hopefully tomorrow's better.
We have lower expectations for tomorrow. It was a much lower level. It was more like a just relaxed kind of a day. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're expecting. And hopefully it lives up to that. And so hopefully we have a little bit better day tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll see you then.
All right.
Ciao.
Ciao.